Picture this. You are standing barefoot on a driveway so hot it could fry an egg. The asphalt soft and sticky under your feet. The smell of orange blossom and salt air drifting on a breeze that never quite cools you down. A screen door slaps shut behind you. Somewhere down the street, a sprinkler tick-tick-ticks across a lawn, and the cicadas are screaming in the oaks like they are being paid for it. This was not a vacation. This was just an ordinary afternoon. This was Florida in the 1980s, back when the state still felt like a secret, before the bulldozers, before the gridlock, before paradise got a price tag. For those who lived it, Florida back then was not about theme parks and traffic and gated communities. It was about endless summers, empty beaches, roadside oranges, and a kind of slow, sun-soaked magic that you did not even know to appreciate until it was gone. If you grew up in Florida in the 1980s or moved there chasing the dream, prepare yourself. These memories are going to hit you right where it hurts. The heat was a living thing. You didn't fight it, you surrendered to it. Air conditioning existed, sure, but plenty of houses still relied on ceiling fans turning lazy circles and jalousie windows cranked open to catch whatever breeze came off the water. Every home had a Florida room, that glorious half-indoor, half-outdoor space with screened walls and terrazzo floors cool against your bare feet. You'd lie on the cool tile in the middle of the day just to escape the worst of it. The afternoons brought thunderstorms you could set your watch by. Around 3 o'clock, the sky would turn an angry purple-green, the wind would pick up, and then the rain came down in sheets so thick you couldn't see the end of the street. 20 minutes later, it was gone, the pavement steaming, the air washed clean, frogs singing from every puddle. You learned the rhythm of it. You learned to love it. And the smell after the rain, that warm, wet earth and blooming jasmine, that was the smell of home. The beaches belonged to you, not to the condos, not to the tourists, not to the parking meters, to you. You could drive down to the shore on a Saturday morning and find a stretch of sand with nobody on it but a fisherman and a couple of pelicans. The water was warm as bathwater and clear enough to see your toes. You would spend the whole day out there with nothing but a cooler, a towel, and a bottle of Coppertone that left you smelling like coconut for a week. No one had heard of sunscreen with SPF 50. You burned, you peeled, you tanned, and you did it all again the next weekend. Mom and pop motels lined the coast, pastel painted with names like the Sea Breeze and the Starlight, glowing neon signs flickering against the dusk. A flamingo here, a palm tree there, a vacancy sign buzzing in pink. You could rent a room steps from the ocean for next to nothing. The dunes were tall and wild, dotted with sea oats that you were not allowed to pick, sea grapes you ate straight off the vine, and sand spurs that taught you to watch where you stepped. At night, you would walk the beach and find ghost crabs scuttling sideways in the moonlight, and if you were lucky, the slow heave of a sea turtle dragging herself up the sand to lay her eggs. And then there were the roadside attractions, those wonderfully strange, gloriously low-tech wonders that made old Florida what it was. Long before everyone funneled into one giant theme park, the highways were dotted with hand-painted billboards promising mermaids, alligators, and natural springs just up ahead. At Weeki Wachee, you'd sit in an underwater theater carved into the limestone and watch real women in shimmering tails perform ballet beneath the surface, breathing from hidden air hoses, smiling like it was the easiest thing in the world. At Silver Springs, you'd glide over crystal water in a glass-bottom boat, peering down at fish and turtles and the wrecks of old movie sets. There was Cypress Gardens with its southern belles and hoop skirts and the water skiers building human pyramids across the lake. There was Gatorland with its giant concrete gator mouth you walked through to get inside, and Spook Hill where you swore your car rolled uphill on its own. These weren't slick, computerized experiences. They were homemade, heartfelt, a little ramshackle, and absolutely unforgettable. You'd beg your parents to pull over, and half the time they would, because back then, a day out didn't have to cost a fortune. The citrus was everywhere, and it was free if you knew where to look. Orange groves stretched for miles along the back roads, neat rows of dark green trees heavy with fruit, and in winter the whole state smelled of orange blossom, that sweet, almost dizzying perfume hanging in the cool air. Roadside stands sold bags of oranges and grapefruit for $1 or $2, fresh squeezed juice in paper cups, and bottles of orange blossom honey. You'd stop on the way home and the man behind the counter would cut you a sample wedge of the sweetest navel you ever tasted, juice running down your wrist. Some folks had a tree or two right in the backyard, and you'd climb up and pick your own breakfast. Citrus wasn't a luxury. It was the everyday miracle of living in a place where the sun made fruit out of thin air. The groves felt permanent, eternal, like they'd always been there and always would be. Nobody imagined a Florida without them. And on certain mornings, if you lived anywhere near the East Coast, the whole world would stop to look up. The space shuttle launched from Cape Canaveral, and you did not need a ticket to see it. You would be in the backyard, or the school playground, or pulled over on the side of the road, and there it would be, a pillar of fire climbing into the blue, a column of smoke trailing behind it, and then, seconds later, the sound would reach you, a deep rolling thunder you felt in your chest. People stepped out of their houses. Teachers brought whole classes outside. Strangers stood together in parking lots, hands shielding their eyes, watching America reach for the stars right over their heads. It made you feel like you lived somewhere important, somewhere the future was being built. That pride, that wonder, was woven right into the fabric of growing up in 1980s Florida. The wild places were still wild. Beyond the towns, Florida was swamp and scrub and slash pine as far as the eye could see. You would take an airboat into the Everglades, the flat-bottomed roar of it skimming over the sawgrass, and your guide would cut the engine and let you drift in the silence, herons standing in the shallows, and alligators' eyes just breaking the surface a few feet away. Manatees, those gentle, slow-moving sea cows, gathered in the warm springs in winter, and you could watch them from a dock, big as sofas, drifting like they had nowhere to be. Dolphins followed the fishing boats into the inlets. Spanish moss hung from every live oak, swaying like gray lace. Love bugs came twice a year in clouds so thick they splattered your windshield, and the front of every car turned into a mess you had to scrub off before it ate the paint. It was messy, buggy, humid, and olive. The land had not been tamed yet. It still felt like it might swallow you up if you wandered too far, and that was part of the thrill. The food matched the place, fresh, unfussy, and dripping with sunshine. Seafood shacks sat right on the water, plywood walls and picnic tables where you'd eat fried grouper sandwiches and peel and eat shrimp with your fingers and watch the boats come in. Conch fritters down in the Keys, washed down with sweet tea so cold the glass sweated. Key lime pie, the real kind, pale yellow and tart, never the neon green stuff they sell to tourists now. Stone crab claws in season, cracked out open with a wooden mallet. Cuban sandwiches and cafe con leche in Tampa and Miami, pressed flat and golden, handed to you through a little walk-up window. And on Sunday afternoons, somebody was always firing up a grill in the backyard, mullet smoking low and slow, the whole neighborhood drifting over because the smell carried. You ate outside barefoot, with mosquito coils burning and the radio playing, and nobody was in any hurry to be anywhere else. Because that was the thing about Florida back then. Nobody was in a hurry. The towns were small and they knew their own. You shopped at the Publix where the bag boy knew your name and carried your groceries to the car, or at a little corner store where the owner let you run a tab till payday. Kids rode bikes from sun up to sundown, and the only rule was be home before the streetlights came on. You knew your neighbors. You waved at them from the porch. When a hurricane was coming, the whole street pulled together, taping windows, sharing batteries, hauling in the patio furniture, and afterward, Everyone came outside to survey the damage and check that the old folks down the block were all right. There was a screened porch friendliness to the place, a slowness that let people actually see each other. Retirees in Bermuda shorts walking the early morning, snowbirds escaping the cold up north, fishermen and citrus workers and shop owners, all of them sharing the same easy pace, the same paradise, the same sense that they'd found somewhere special and gotten away with it. But here's the thing about paradise. Word always gets out, and then everything changed. It started slowly, then all at once. The same sunshine that drew you in started drawing in everyone else. People poured into Florida by the hundreds of thousands, year after year, chasing the dream you were already living. The orange groves you thought were eternal got an offer they couldn't refuse, and one by one they came down. Where there had been rows of dark green trees and the smell of blossom on the wind, there were now bulldozers, then bare red dirt, then subdivisions with names that bragged about the very groves they destroyed. Whispering Oaks, Citrus Glen. The trees were gone, but they kept the names like souvenirs. The freezes did not help. In the winters of the 80s, brutal cold snaps swept down and did what no one thought possible. They killed the citrus where it stood, mile after mile of blackened, frost-bitten trees. Whole groves were wiped out in a single night. Many growers never replanted. They sold the land instead, and the land became more concrete, more rooftops, more of the sprawl creeping outward in every direction. The heart of old Florida, that endless green, started to disappear, and most people barely noticed it happening until they looked up one day and realized it was already gone. The roadside attractions began to fade too. As the big interstates cut their straight gray lines across the state, traffic stopped meandering down the old two-lane highways where the mermaids and the glass-bottom boats had thrived. Why pull over for a hand-painted gator when you could blast past on the freeway toward the giant, dazzling, air-conditioned mega parks? One by one, the little places struggled. Some closed for good. The neon signs went dark. The hoop skirts and the human pyramids and the limestone theaters became relics of a Florida that the new arrivals never knew existed. The whole roadside, once a string of homemade wonders, started to feel like a memory. And the coast, oh the coast. Those wild dunes and pastel motels and empty stretches of sand did not stand a chance. The mom and pop places that charged you a few dollars a night got bought up, knocked down, and replaced by walls of high-rise condominiums, 10, 20 stories tall, casting long shadows over the very beach they had been built to enjoy. The flamingo signs and the sea breeze and the starlight gave way to chains and resorts and parking garages. The dunes were flattened. The beach access got fenced and metered. The stretch of shore where you used to find nothing but a fisherman and a couple of pelicans now had 1,000 towels on it by 9 in the morning. You could still get to the water, but you had to pay to park, and you had to share it with the world. The traffic came next. The great slow rivers of brake lights on roads that used to be empty. The little towns where everyone knew your name swelled into cities that did not know you at all. The slow pace, the screened porch friendliness, the easy sense that you had found somewhere secret, all of it got buried under growth, under more, under faster. The wild places shrank. The swamps got drained and paved. The springs that once ran clear got crowded and strained. Florida was still beautiful, still warm, still bright, but the secret was out, and a secret, once it is out, can never quite be a secret again. Ask anyone who knew Florida in the 1980s, and they'll tell you the same thing. We didn't have the theme parks we have now. We didn't have the towers on the beach or the 4-lane highways or the endless subdivisions. We had less, but somehow it felt like more. There was space to breathe. There were oranges on the trees and mermaids down the road and rockets in the sky. There were empty beaches and warm rain and the smell of blossom in the winter air. There were neighbors who waved in a pace of life that let you actually live it. We didn't have everything, but we had paradise, and we had it almost entirely to ourselves. And maybe that's what makes these memories hurt so much. Not because Florida is worse now. In some ways, it's bigger, brighter, easier than ever, but because something real got lost along the way. The wildness, the slowness, the sense of stumbling onto something magical that hadn't yet been discovered, packaged, and sold. The groves that smelled like heaven, the motels that glowed pink at dusk, the beach that belonged to you. It was hot and buggy and humid and a little bit ramshackle, and it was perfect, and it was ours. If you grew up in 1980s Florida, you know exactly what I mean. The cool terrazzo under your bare feet on a scorching afternoon, the roar of the airboat and the silence after, the shuttle climbing into the blue while the whole neighborhood stood and watched, the juice running down your wrist at the orange stand, the empty sand and the warm water, and the long, slow, golden days that you thought would never end. It wasn't perfect, but it was paradise, and we'll never forget it. If this brought back memories, share it with someone who lived it too. Hit subscribe to keep these American stories alive. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite memory of old Florida, the place you went, the thing you saw, the way it felt. I really do love reading every single one. Until next time, hold those memories close. Paradise. Like that does not come around twice.